Hey guys, it's AB, and if you are watching this, it's because you're going to hear me talk about my story for the first time ever. I have been wanting to do this for a very long time. I've done it several times, edited it, and I'm ready to post it, but I just never end up posting it because I just get so afraid of, like, man, what are people going to say? What are people going to think? But I think I'm ready this time. You never know who's going through this, who's battling through this, and nowadays it's very common for people to get divorced. And so I just want to share my story and how God has been so good to me, and maybe that might help somebody else realize that, hey, there's things that happen in life, and God is there to help you walk every step of the way. And me coming from somebody that did not know God at all, that's amazing for me to be able to say, I'm so grateful to God. But before I dive in to, I guess, my story, I kind of want to talk about my upbringing, because I feel like that had a lot to do with why I made some of the decisions that I made along my journey, of being married and divorced very early. I did not grow up in a Christian home. I was raised by a single mother. Me and my brother were raised by her probably for, me for 10 years. And then that's when my stepdad came in the picture. And I always wondered, like, man, what is that fatherly love? Like, you see it in movies, like the mom and the sons always have a close bond, but then it's the daughters and the fathers. And you just think about, oh man, like that's the daughters, first love is their father. And I think I always longed for that, that love, for a man to love me, my father to love me. And I definitely, seeked that through my ex, so growing up also, I was super chunky, so I, like really chunky. So I didn't really get a lot of attention from guys, and it was probably like my senior year that I lost a lot of weight and I looked better, and that's when I met my ex, and we started going out. He, really shortly after asked me to be his girlfriend, and I was like so happy. I was like, yes, like I'll be your girlfriend, my first boyfriend ever. I was so excited. And it was something very serious for me. On my end, he was, my first, like, everything. And so I was not born in a Christian home, so I didn't know like values as far as I know it sounds bad, but I wasn't taught to save yourself for the person that you love and the person you're going to marry. I was more taught, like, don't make my same mistake, because that's what happened with my mom. She had me not young, she was 21, but her thing was, don't make the mistake I made. And we are going out for a couple months, and bam, I end up pregnant. And I remember my mom was so upset, and she was like, you're going to get an abortion. He's going to go to jail, because I was 17, he was 21, because you're not about to throw away your high school senior year, your, scholarship for soccer, your college, life, your career. You're not going to throw away your life for this mistake. And like I said, I was not Christian, so abortion was definitely an option. I just didn't know if I could do that, just as a person, and so I remember telling her, okay, look, like, let's go get checked. I need more information if I'm gonna, think about even considering doing that. So I go to the doctor's office, and, they check me, and turns out I'm 16 weeks. I am 4 months pregnant, and I had no clue. Like, I was not showing, like, everything was regular. And I remember walking out of there, and I just told my mom, I can't do it. Like, it's a baby. Like, you can see what it is, and I can't do that. I'm sorry. And she was so upset, and, she was like, you just threw your whole life away, and, this is your responsibility. This is your child. I'm not going to take care of this child. Just very, very, like, just letting me know what's up, like, what's coming up. And I was like, okay, like, that's fine. But I think in the back of my mind, keeping my baby was a way of, one, staying together with, my ex, and two, keeping him, from going to jail, protecting him in a way. And, that definitely was the first signs of, me kind of showing like just being protective of him and always looking out for his best interest. So that was definitely the first sign, that I noticed I did. And so, now I'm about, fast forward a little bit, I'm about 8 months pregnant, and me and my parents are just fighting all the time, arguments, always getting into it. And long story short, they ended up kicking me out. So I remember I called my ex and I was like, hey, like my parents kicked me out. I don't know where to go. And he's like, just come, pack your stuff, come with me. You can live here. My parents aren't going to tell you anything. So that's what I did. I went to go, move in with his parents, and they were actually Christian. And it's crazy, like how God just was there from the very beginning, like just so good. And so his parents were Christian, and they were very involved in their church, and I had never met somebody that was Christian, and the Christian that like they were involved in church and, they had a relationship with God. I had never met anybody like that. And so I, remember they sat us down. They were like, look, you can stay here, that's fine, but you guys have to get married, because it's not right for you to be in one, under one roof and you guys are not married. That's sin, and I can't, like their thing was more like, what would people at church say? But it is true. I understand now that I'm Christian, where they were coming from. And so I remember talking to my ex, and I was like, look, like I'm having your baby. I already live with you. Like I don't see a problem, and he didn't see a problem. And so, we told him, okay, I was already due. When Isaac's born, we'll go and get married. And, that's what we did. Isaac was 1 month, and we went to the courthouse, signed papers, went out to eat, nothing big, and boom, we were married. We were about 6 months in when he first was abusive. And I was texting a friend, I remember, and he was just asking me, how are you? Are you in school? How's Isaac? How's your husband? How are you doing? Just small talk like that. It was nothing serious. And I remember my ex got so upset, and then he just snapped, and he grabbed me by the neck and pinned me to the wall. And it wasn't just like pinning me to the wall, like he had me like gripped by my neck. I couldn't breathe, and it seemed like forever. And I just was like, man, like, am I gonna die? Like I just, every breath that I tried to take was harder and harder and harder. And I remember trying to tell him to stop, but there's only so much you can say when you're really like choking. And so he, I remember he finally like let me go, and I grabbed Isaac, and I was just like immediately like went to the corner just holding him, and I was like, how could you do that? Like, you're crazy, screaming at him, just scared, shocked, frightened, confused. All these things were like going through my mind, just like what the heck just happened? And I remember he saw how startled up I was, and he came to me and he just like hugged me, and I was trying to fight him off, but he just hugged me so tight in. And I know this will probably sound like crazy, but I felt safe in a way, like I know he had just did that, but I was so shooken up that I just needed to be like held. And I mean, I remember just feeling his tight hug, and I was like, I just felt loved again. Like I just was confused, but it was better than just being left, and he couldn't like walked away. He instead embraced me, and so he told me he was sorry, it wasn't gonna happen again, just like what you can imagine somebody would say, that is physically abusive. And I believed him. I was young. I was 18. I was young, and he said he was gonna do it again, and this is my husband now. I'm married. Like, this is serious. This isn't just a boyfriend, or we have a kid together. And so I forgave him, and we just kind of moved past it, and things were good. Like, after that just one small incident, things were good. We got our own place. I had a good job, he had a good job. Isaac was like, everything was good. And I remember it was Valentine's Day, and I had planned something special because I'm super detailed, and I waited for him to get home, and he got home, you know, like super, super, super late, and you know, he wasn't answering my texts, wasn't answering my calls, and he got home, you know, I was more worried than upset. You know, I was just like, you know, what happened? Are you okay? Why didn't you, you know, like, why didn't you answer my calls? And he just flat out was like, look, I don't love you. I never loved you. You forced me into this marriage, and I don't want to be with you anymore. I want a divorce. And I remember I was like like that one guy, like that one meme. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I was like, what? I was like, what? Like, how can you say that? Like, I was in love with this guy, and I was like, how could you say that? I love you. Like, we have a family, we're married, we have a place. Like, what do you mean you don't want to be with me? What do you mean you're unhappy? Like, I was happy, I'm good. Like, how are you not? You know, things were good in every part of our lives. And so he ended up convincing me, you know, after we talked for a long time, he ended up convincing me to stay with my mom for a week so he could think about, you know, things alone, because he needed alone time and all this crap. And so I took Isaac, I went with my mom, and probably like 2 days in, I told my mom, like, Mom, I just need to see him. Like, I was like, if he's not in my life, or, you know, like, my life is over. Like, that's how strong I felt for him. And so I remember, you know, telling my mom, if he just sees me, like, he won't want to get a divorce with me. Like, I know he loves me. I know, like, we have something special. Like, things, I know it will work out. And my mom's like, AB, like, leave him alone, give him his space. And I was just so hard-headed. You know, I was like, no, I need to go see him. I need to go see him. So I go to the apartment, and, you know, I don't want to get too much into, like, detail, because then it'll be more focused on the drama than on what God did with my life. And so you know, I caught him there with the girl, and I remember, now this was before Christ, so I was so upset. I was like full of adrenaline, and I was like, this girl's about to get it. Like, I'm about to beat her, like, up. And so I remember I went to go charge, like, for her, like, full on, like, I was ready. It was like it was gonna go down, and my ex just kind of caught me, like, midway, and pushed me, like, all the way towards, kind of like, we had a patio, so our patio door, and, you know, he just started hitting me, like, and not, it wasn't like before just choking, like, he was hitting me, grabbing me by the head, like, smashing my head to the window. Like, it's crazy to think when I think about it, but, you know, like, this happened, and it's real, and it happens, you know, it's more often than you think. And you know, he's slamming my head to the window, slamming it, punching me on the side of my stomach, like, you know, like right here, and just everywhere he can get. And you know, I fall to the ground, and he's still going, like, kicking me, and just, like, I just remember laying there, and I, you know, the way I was laying, I just, looking straight, I saw you know, the girl that he was there with, and she looked at me, and she just grabbed her stuff and just ran out of the apartment. And he was like, wait, like, where are you going? And chased after her, and just left me there, like, on the floor. And I remember laying there, like, what is life? Like, I couldn't move, I couldn't think. I was just, like, physically, mentally, emotionally numb. Like, nothing was coming to my head, you know. Like, I just laid there, like, I just laid there crying. And I thought to myself, if I call my mom, he's going to jail. Like, I don't want my son to, and there I go, protecting. I don't want after he just did this to me, you know, you would think, and, but when you're in that moment, you don't think like that. And so I remember, like, saying, if I call my mom, man, like, she's gonna send him to jail. And, you know, like, I love him, and I know he wants to be with me. And you just start, like, just making up things. And so the only person that I thought about calling was his mom. And I called his parents, and I was like, I found, I found him here with the girl. And you know, he hit me. I'm on the floor. I can't get up. Like I'm falling and I can't get up. Not the time, sorry. And so, like, you know, I was like, I can't get up. My body aches. It hurts. And they were like, okay, like, stay there. Don't do anything. Like, we're going to come. We're going to fix it. Like, I promise you we're going to fix it. You know, I don't know what's wrong with him. And so they get there. They're only like 20 minutes away. They get there. They help me down the stairs. And they're just like, I don't understand, like, why he's like this. And, you know, like, he's not going to do this. He's not going to divorce you. Like, this isn't what, you know, what God wants. And I don't know why he's doing this. And, you know, just a bunch of stuff. And I remember they took me to their house. I spent the night there, and I woke up the next morning sore. Like, my body was like I had just like played a game, or not even, like, maybe probably how boxers wake up. Like, that's probably, I imagine, like, this is probably how it feels like when people that box, you know, wake up from their match. But anyways, I was so sore, and I remember still trying to call him, like, seeing where he was at, seeing if he was okay, like, what happened, like, if he was gonna come, letting him know I was at his mom's house. And he didn't answer any of my calls. And you know, I just remember I felt so alone. I felt like dying. I'm not gonna, like, sugarcoat it. Like, I felt like my life was over. I felt like the one person that loved me in this world just abandoned me, just threw me to the side. And like, I kid you not, my heart couldn't take it. And I remember I just got in like a kneeling position, and I was like, God, like, I need you to take this pain away from me, because I cannot bear to feel what I'm feeling. You know, it hurts so bad, you know, and just crying out and just crying out and crying out and pouring out my heart, you know. And I was just like, I need you to take care of this. I need you to make this pain go away, because I don't want to live anymore. Like, if I don't have him, I don't want to live. But God, man, like, little did I know, right there, alone, not knowing anything about God, like, God showed up in that moment. And he was, I can just imagine him, like, so happy, like, oh, my daughter, I've been, like, calling out for you. If you only knew, you know, if you only knew how hard I've been, you know, trying to, you know, get your attention. And, you know, like, and like, now you have a relationship with me, and how, like, I'm gonna show you just the abundance of love that I have, and the abundance of mercy, and the abundance of grace that I have for you. And it was just a very special moment. And I know that God was there, because I remember getting up and just everything changed. The way I saw things, the way I saw, you know, and it wasn't like a change overnight, like, you know, like, no, like, I had a desire to go to church. Like, where did that come from? You know, things like that. And so I started attending church, and I get close to the pastor's wife, and she actually starts mentoring me, and I just opened up to her, and I told her everything. Like, she knew everything that went down, you know, before, and even, you know, there's more to the story. And so she began to mentor me. And yeah, she was basically like, look, you have every right to divorce him. We don't want that. I mean, like, obviously we're against divorce, but you have the right. But she told me, you also have the right to fight for your marriage, because the enemy is out to seek, kill, and destroy. And right now he's doing that to your marriage, because he knows that you guys are going to do great things for the kingdom. And I remember just, you know, her telling me that, and I prayed over it, and I just felt like God told me, fight. And that's what I did. I started, you know, praying, fasting, you know, like, just fully just in it. And, you know, a couple weeks passed, and things began to happen to my ex. You know, he loses his job, loses his car, you know, the girl that he was with doesn't want to be with him anymore, just things like that. And eventually he ends up back, you know, with me, and, you know, asking me for forgiveness, asking me that, you know, if I can just give him another chance, that he wanted to make things work. He wanted this family. He was going to seek God. You know, he saw how serious I was about God, and he was like, I'm going to do that for you if that's what it takes. And you know, I was like so happy. I felt like, man, I have the victory. Like, God restored my marriage, and we're gonna help other married people, and we're gonna let them know that, hey, like, look at what God did to us, and if God can do that to us, He can do it with you. And so I was so like, just, it's like God gave me this vision, like, man, like, you're gonna help married couples. Like, I put you through this because you're gonna help married couples. And it wasn't easy. I had major trust issues, but it was more like I was trusting God, because I knew I couldn't trust my ex. I was trusting God, and I was like, God, like, you brought him back to me, and it's because you are gonna fully restore this marriage, and I'm gonna trust in you, and you're gonna get me through this. And it was hard, like, seeing him go out. He towards the end of, like, before we broke up, he started going out at night, and he would say, oh, I'm gonna go to a life group and go mentor to men and let them know how God restored us, and how I'm not drinking alcohol or doing drugs, and like, whatever his story was. And I remember saying, okay, like, if that's what God's called you to do, that's awesome, go. And I just was like, God, he's in your hands. You know my heart, the enemy's attacking my mind right now, but I'm gonna trust in you because you're faithful. And that's how I was. And I was so in the spirit that it didn't matter what the enemy tried to bring me. I would block it off. I would block it off. Like, if nothing had ever happened. And but then things just started getting, I don't know, things started changing. And I remember one night we got into a huge fight, and he would start to, like, he would be out, and he wouldn't come home till like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. He would say, oh, I was out with my friends, or I was just with guys, and I would just pray. I just would pray. And but one time, it was the third time that he was abusive with me, and it was in the car. He was telling me to get out. We were fighting. He was like, I'm gonna go, and I was like, no, I don't want you to go, because if you go, you're not gonna come back. And he was like, get out, punch. And I was like, no, stop, like, ow, get out, punch. Like, and I was just like, would not get out of the car. He starts hitting my head again, like, pushing my head against the window, punching me on my rib, and to the point where I just couldn't, like, I couldn't take the hits anymore. And I was crying, and I told him, like, give me my keys, I'm gonna take my car, I can't go into the house, because then your parents will see me like this, because we're still living with his parents. And he gave me the keys. I took Isaac, and I didn't know where to go, and so I just went to church. And when I was pulling in, the pastors were walking out, and they saw my car, and they walked over to my car, and the pastor, like, God, he's like he was a spiritual father for me in that moment. Like, I so cherish that couple, and the time that they spent with me. And so I just remember the pastor grabbed Isaac and put him alongside, so that way me and his wife can talk. And she knew already. I was crying bad, and she was like, was it him? Did he do something? And I'm just like sobbing there, just crying. And she's like, this isn't right. God doesn't want this. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we, she's like, just cry it out. God is gonna protect you. God's gonna be there for you. Like, just cry it all out with me. And so I cried it out. I went home, and he didn't come home that night. And when he did, it was like, he just was different. And then I find out I'm pregnant with Natalie, and I'm like, I remember I find out right before I turned 22. I was like 21. It was like a few weeks before my birthday. Actually, no, it was a day before my birthday. And I found out I was pregnant, and I was just so sad. We weren't planning a baby. Things were obviously not good between us. But I was pregnant. And so I went and I told him, and he was so upset, and was kind of like, I remember I told him, and he's like, what? Like, and he just sat there like, oh, like, wow, like, how, and it just made me feel so awful, because I already felt bad as it was. And then to, like, have that reaction was just really horrible. And so it all happened just so quick. Like probably a week after I told him I was pregnant, I just felt like something wasn't right, and I, go through his phone and I find out he's with some other chick now from the job that he's at. And I remember I, called her, I spoke to her, and it was like they were serious, like another affair, and I was like, dude, like this is happening again. So when he got home, like I confronted him, and he was like, said the same thing over to me again, like, I told you I didn't want to be with you, like, yes, I'm with this girl, and I'm leaving you, I'm packing my stuff, and I'm moving in with her, just all this stuff. And I was to the point where I was like, I just watched him leave. Like, he just grabbed his stuff and he just left. And I remember I was like, and like that was the last time I saw him really. And obviously throughout my pregnancy I did, like still try and I'll get there, but he just packed his stuff and just left. And I remember, my pregnancy was hard, and I still wasn't ready to let go. I still was fighting. I would try to call him and he would go back and forth, but I would never see him. It would just be like phone calls, like back and forth. And I got depressed, and I would cry so much. And not cry, like I would cry to God, like, why is this happening to me? Just what you would ask God, like, why me, and how, I can't go through this. And I just felt so alone. And I had Natalie by myself. Like, I remember I pulled up to the hospital, I Snapchatted my friends, like, hey, like, I'm here, and everybody's like, hey, B, like, what the heck, why didn't you call any of us? And I just was in and out. I had her, and I was just like, okay, like, this is my life, like, me and my 2 kids. And I had accepted that things were kind of like, I accepted he wasn't going to come back, but I still had just, like, I would cry out to God, and I would tell him, God, like, why would I go through this? Like, this is too hard for me, like, I can't. And because I would cry about those things, I didn't want to get a divorce. I just wanted God to fix my marriage, like, just fix it. And my friends would be like, AB, like, you are putting yourself through more pain, like, just move on, like. And they would be with me and hear me cry. And I just remember one day I was praying, and I just felt God tell me, like, it's time, like, I release you from that marriage, like, I release you from it, like, you're crying, and like, no, I need you to just be content with who I am, and be satisfied with me and with your kids, and just forget about the rest, and that's when God gave me that confirmation, okay, like, I'm gonna divorce him. So I filed for divorce. He didn't show up, so the judge easily granted it. And like, it's crazy when I look at life now, because I all those things that I was so worried about, I feel like God was like, oh, you're crying because you don't think God's gonna love you how I do. Okay, let me check that box off. Oh, you're crying because you think that his parents might see you in a different way. Okay, let me check that box off. Oh, you're afraid that the people, the guy's parents are going to not treat the kids good. Okay, I'm gonna check that off. Oh, you think that the man that you marry is not gonna love your kids. Okay, let me check that off. And I just felt like God went just checking off all this stuff that I would cry about when I was alone in my room, and he gave me, like, Lewis. And it's like, it's so crazy, y'all, because I'm not just hyping him up because I'm his wife. Like, anybody that knows him knows that he, like, is a God-fearing man, and he has a passion for people, and he just wants to make everybody he's around feel comfortable, and he wants to better anybody that he can. And just he has a generous heart, and he just loves to help, and he doesn't care about receiving anything, and so in love with the Word of God. And you know, like he loves my kids and he loved me and he saw me for who I was and not my past. And like, guys, that was so big for me. You know, and his parents, like, don't even get me started on his parents, guys. Like, these people, like, I could not have asked for anything more from my in-laws. Like, from the moment they met me, they made me feel, they didn't judge me, you know, they showed me grace, they showed me love, you know. From the moment they met my kids, it has been like that is their grandkids. Like, they've never made them feel any type of way. Like, it is like they're their own. And you know, like, I can not have been like more, like, anything that I thought like would be okay, God exceeded that abundantly. And I know that no matter what you're going through, maybe you're not going through an abusive relationship, like, God is known for going all out, and he goes all out. Like, he gives you the best of the best, and that's what I feel like he did for me. He gave me the best of the best, and I'm just so grateful to God for that. And you know, I look at everything I went through and I'm like, man, like, God was there every step of the way. I wasn't searching for somebody, he brought somebody to me. And you know, like, I just, guys, like, trust in God. And just remember that, you know, physical, mental, and emotional abuse is never okay in a relationship. And just be aware of the signs that you see, and also ask, you know, the Holy Spirit for wisdom, you know, that you're able to make wise decisions after you see those. Because sometimes we can just make decisions so blindly, you know. So it's really important to just ask the Holy Spirit for guidance, you know, in that. And if you don't need anything, you know, hit me in my DMs, like, whatever you want to talk about, I'm here, you know, for whatever. But this is what God did for me, and I know that, you know, he's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and he's gonna keep doing big things. He's gonna keep doing, you know, keep going all out for you. And so yeah, I just wanted to share my story finally. God bless you all. Peace. See you later.